Hello and welcome to the Inbetween podcast. I'm the host Jones Scorn, and I'm joined here by Tony Tones at RT. How are you, Tony?
Bonjour, I'm very good. You could say.
Tell me what I'm looking at right now on my screen. It's Jason Bourne.
It's Jesus Christ! It's Cupra born.
There it is.
Spelled as in birth born, not as in Jason Bourne. I had to. That was a bit of an issue in searching for it. Tell my family to search for it.
Guys, have you
They
seen
had
the
Jason
new
Bourne in their mind as
Unreal
well.
Engine 5 screenshots? The graphics are insane.
Yeah, I mean if it's not running in Unreal 5, it's a shit game. But yeah, no. Last Wednesday, I received my car. We then went to a barbecue on the May Day weekend. You were there. You were in the car.
I have been inside this car, yes.
According to my travel time, I was traveling for 4 hours and half an hour there and back to an hour of that you weren't in it. So that it claims that you've been in the car for 3 hours. So what did you think of the 3 hours?
Yeah, I thought it was a cool car. It was it's an automatic as well, so you have a lot more space in like the middle and stuff like that.
Yeah, I thought they did because like the last car was the technically also automatic, but it was like a converted combustion car as the Vauxhall Corsa E. But yeah, I much prefer what they've done with the interior. Like you've actually got like two storage spaces in a way, like one for drinks and like one for like your phone and like other bulkier stuff.
Yeah, so the thing at the front pulls up, and then you have a thing behind it where the gearbox would be, and you can put stuff in there. It always throws me off when instead of having dashboards now. So this is an electronic car. We should just point that out quickly to anyone who doesn't know, because I never heard of the Cupra Born until you mentioned it. It's like because I think the only electronic cars I know of from like not really paying attention to that much to electric cars. I know Tesla. I know like the Chevy Volt.
Oh, okay. Is that because of Linus that you know?
It's because of Linus, yeah.
Yeah.
I think he reviewed like what was the company that did one? Was it McLaren or something like that?
There's a Porsche Taycan.
Porsche.
Linus owns a Porsche Taycan.
So I will say, like, when it comes to cars, I don't drive, and I also struggle to tell them apart unless they have the name of the car written on the car. If I see a bit like I know the logo for the BMW because you always got to look out for BMW drivers.
You got to look out for the Beamers.
Yeah.
They refuse to put the indicator option on, so
I'm not a car guy, so
no. I was my mum is also car blind. She's like she can like sort of tell the difference between certain shapes of cars, but it's like even then it's like no, they're all just kind of the same other than color.
It was an incredibly comfortable ride. It had aircon for each passenger.
Yeah.
I don't know. I never rode in the back, but the front seat was cool.
I got my sister to ride in the back on the Monday afterwards. I went to the shopping mall. The shopping center. So I think it's okay in the back. I mean, she wasn't in for long, but I really like the interior.
Throws me when you have these giant tablets now instead of dashboards in electronic cars, because that's always it's just so different from what you're used to as a passenger or driver.
I think having a big tablet is fine, but what I don't think is fine, and I think is the biggest problem with the car for me. Obviously, I knew this going in, so it wasn't like a deal breaker. So it's a compromise I'm willing to accept. It's like the haptic-y piano black fingerprinty buttons / not buttons. It's not great. I would prefer like knobs and switches and buttons that you don't need to have audible beeps to make it sound like a real button. Just have a button.
From my limited knowledge of electronic cars, I know that as a media infotainment system, the Tesla is widely regarded to be like the gold standard for like media infotainment systems.
I still think the Tesla needs more knobs and buttons though, because I think it's still too orientated on the touchscreen. I think having a touchscreen is fantastic, but you need other buttons.
There's a lot of good other electronic car options, but the infotainment system on these cars usually sucks.
Yeah.
From what I've seen, like when we were in the car, you were having trouble with Android Auto.
Yeah.
Okay, you want to tell me about hardcore maps?
Oh yeah, I'm kind of recalling it that. But yeah, I don't think this is the car issue. I think this is just like my phone's variation of
Okay.
Android Auto or something. I mean, there might be issues with the car itself. I don't know. I've never used Android Auto before, but it's like, yeah,
Yeah.
it's like, so to pair it, it's like you have to like, yeah, to pair properly. Like you have to have location on like on your phone. Is like why? I'm just like you're just trying to pair like your phone calls on your music. Why do you need to know where my location is? It's like you don't need that. It's like, okay, fine for map, sure, but unless I was putting in. So normally what I do, because like I come and pick you up and then go to our destination, right? So I have like
Yeah.
a multi destination trip basically, which I then save on my phone, and like you can input, like you can save it on like your home screen on the phone, then just click
Yeah.
it and it opens it up. It's like as soon as it's connected through Android Auto, it's like Maps is like, nope, you have to use the car screen. It's like I was gonna use the car screen, I was just gonna load the maps. So that was my first issue. Is like, why the fuck am I not allowed to use an app because I've got Android Auto on? That doesn't make any sense. I'm currently stopped in the car.
Because I was
It's
wondering about just using the inbuilt sat nav and how well that would go, but you tried that and you said it was
yeah,
about
I
the
have used
same.
it. It works fine. They're probably the thing. This is the weird thing that they're probably both about as good as each other because if the Android Auto map worked exactly the same as my Maps app on my phone, I would say like easily the phone is better. But
Yeah.
the way it's implemented, it's not. Like all I can do is like put in a destination, then hit go. That's the only option I really have. I can like say
So
don't use the motorway. It's like
you
that's not
you
options.
you you've came up with this phrase hardcore maps, which is fucking
Yeah,
hilarious to me, where Google Maps, when you inputted your destination, if you made a wrong turn, it wouldn't redirect. So
yeah.
if you
So
go on.
normally you driving like you hit on turn, it's like oh redirect like it like recalculates like to try and get you back on route, right? Like it's just the normal thing you expect a map to do.
Yeah.
And this was like you went past it and it was like it just grayed out like where you're supposed to be and it's like well you're not on the line so you're gonna have to get back there somehow and it's
I
like that's just
thought
like hardcore
I
maps.
thought this was hilarious, and I think it would be amazing if there was a video game designed around hardcore maps somehow,
Yeah,
where it would give you a it would have a map and it would show you where to go. But if you went off the map, then it wouldn't show you anymore, and you had to like try and figure out where the hell you were. Or
yeah, and I'll be back onto it
mm,
because that's the crazy thing is like it wasn't even like obviously like normally it's like it's gray behind you or like like you're eating like so it has like the blue line like you're kind of like eating the line as you get close to your destination. When you went past it, it was like it just like cut off where you're supposed to be. And it's like well you're off the map now. We tried to guide you, and well, you're
wait,
fucked.
so on the wheel, these are like touchscreen. They're like haptic
They're
buttons.
haptic buttons. Yeah, they are
See,
also technically buttons, but
the thing that I've seen is people always says like they prefer physical buttons to haptic
yep,
buttons unless
yep.
they're like I think apparently Apple has very good haptic buttons.
But that's fine. Haptic buttons like if we're talking about like on like in the phone, you mean like how it feels.
Mm.
I think that having on a touchscreen, like some cars, for example, actually have like haptic touchscreens. It's like if you touch
Yeah.
something, you'll like make a vibe. I think that's fine. I think you should be able to turn it off because not everyone likes that. But when it comes to stuff on a steering wheel or trying to change the volume quickly or trying to change the aircon quickly, it should all be like dials and buttons. Like I don't think you should be having to
Uh, Hang on, I'm
like I
just
think you should be
fact
able to
checking myself.
optionally do that like for the touchscreen, but you should like have
Okay,
very quick access to this.
currently Apple has a technology called 3D Touch, I believe, which
Right.
is
Okay.
that they might be adding haptic to the next one.
But yeah, I would personally, if they just had tactile buttons and knobs, it'd be perfect. The I mean, the touchscreen isn't like the most responsive thing in the world, like compared to
But
like normal tablets you would buy, but it was fine.
from my experience, like having like monitors and stuff, like the monitors that I have, the ones that have physical buttons are so much easier to turn on and off when you have
Yep.
those weird like clicky buttons on the front that aren't real buttons.
Yeah.
Um, yeah, I
What?
think
Why are we anti-button? Like, I feel like a nice quality like metal tactile click button is really nice. Like, why are we going away from this? What's the who's pushing for this? Like what I don't understand. I don't get it.
Yeah, I don't know. Maybe it's just the idea of trying to modernize it. I mean, the car looked very like sleek and classy, I think. I
Yeah,
like it has this like carbon aesthetic, sort of like
yeah,
off
with
like
the trimmed
brown
like
off gold sort of stuff. I don't know how to
yeah.
describe the color.
I don't think I ever showed you this, but there's technically RGB elements in the car. There's
Okay, you didn't turn the
like in the
RGB on.
glove box. Well, in the I say where the gear stick would have been, like in front of that is like technically a light there, and on the doors you can technically change the color of that, but it's like really subtle. So it's like I'll just set it to a color. I think I set it to green. So I'm in a green mood. It's spring,
But yeah,
but yeah, there's RGB.
you've had it for what, a
A
week
week.
now?
Yeah, I got it Wednesday, so like a week and one day.
Are you happy so far with the car, other than the Android Auto stuff that you've had troubles with?
Yeah, there's weird pairing stuff with settings. Like I have small issues basically, but I think that's kind of a given at this point. Almost
Yeah.
all my issues with infotainment, oddly, including my other issues. So
It seems like we're going to continue to have good electronic cars with bad infotainment systems.
yeah, I guess I should say like I got an average both ways there. Like this is probably people like cars is kind of used to this. So obviously
Hmm.
MPG or miles per gallon is what you might be used to, or maybe it's kilometers per liter if you're in the EU, or
Yeah.
100 or I think they have it like per 100 kilometers, which is really fucking weird. I hate that. Um, but yeah, the equivalent for an electric car is miles or kilometers per kilowatt hour. Where kilowatt hour
Yeah.
is like the energy stored in the battery. I was getting around. I think on our trip like there and back, the average was about 3.7, and that's with quite quick motorway speeds. I'm
Yeah.
not going to say how fast I was doing at some point because
Within the
70 is
speed
technically the
limits,
maximum
within the
limit in the
speed
UK.
limits.
But yeah, I'm
Um,
pretty impressed with the range. Like I didn't charge when I was there. Like I only charged when I got back, and it's like
I thought the regenerative
185.
braking was very good as well when we were just going
Yeah.
downhill, and it's like, well, I'm
Oh
charging
yeah,
up.
yeah. So I had put on like adaptive cruise, was like just holding it's just like holding the speed, and it's like we're just just using it to charge up. There's a bit on the way home. I don't think you've ever been this way to my house, but
Right.
it's like a big hill before getting into my town, and it's
Yeah.
like that's always great in an electric car. Very fun.
Well, I think it's my third time being electric. I've been in an ID3,
Well,
and I've been in, what's your mum's car called?
that's a Vauxhall Corsa E.
A Corsa E. Okay.
Yeah.
I think this
It's funny
was.
you should talk about the Volkswagen ID3, Joe, because the Cupra Born is based upon the ID3 platform.
Okay, there it is.
It's just a sportier variant from Spain instead of Germany.
Yeah, it felt pretty similar, the ride, so.
Yeah, it should be very similar, right? I just much prefer the look of like the Cupra look. I all their cars to me have a much better styling than almost anything else. I just prefer them so much more. They are very aggressive looking cars, like maybe like some people would
Like
call
they're gonna have a
masculine, but
fight. Oh, it's a toxic masculinity
I
car.
don't I don't like calling things like something feminine and masculine, but like traditionally masculine maybe. But to me, it's like you're just trying to say aggressive. You're saying masculine, in my opinion, but whatever.
Cool car.
Yeah, I'm very happy with
But
it. I still look at it. I don't think I've told him on this, but like obviously, like I've been borrowing my mum's blue car for like the blue Corsa for
yeah.
a while, and it's just been parked there. So I keep looking out, expecting
We
to see
just
a
tell
blue
should we
car, and they're just a black car
should
there.
tell people that your house has solar panels and battery backup,
Yes,
so it's very easy for you to get juice for the car.
in yeah, in spring, summer, and early autumn, it's. I don't know. At night I can because of the batteries we can charge in the winter at night time basically because we can do like off peak
Yeah.
charging. So I mean, okay, technically anyone can sign up for this if you have an electric car. You don't need to have batteries to do this. But it depends on like what the providers are willing to do in your area basically.
I do
But it
think
makes
it
sense to
is.
have it all the time.
I do think it is cool seeing like the technology of like solar panels and electric
Yeah,
cars now, because they're trying to get people to stop using petrol cars by
yeah.
2030 in
Because
the UK.
yeah, that'll be new cars. You won't be able to
Oh,
buy
okay.
them. You should be able to use them. I think there will be a phase out period entirely, and I think cities are going to get like more and more strict because like the the anti-car side of people that keep getting voted in cities, basically. And I agree. I 100% agree. Like you're gonna drive to a city, like drive to the outskirts, then walk, or like use public transport once you get there. Like, that's my opinion.
But somebody who's accidentally been through London in the congestion zone, it's very
Yeah,
easy to do that sort of stuff.
yeah.
So
You don't want
I
to be driving there.
it was very scenic. It was very scenic driving around
Yeah,
the
yeah.
congestion zones in
But
London.
one thing I'll say is like there's a lot of like
But
people like
do you
anti.
think we'll get to a point where they're like, right, we need everyone to have electric cars, and they'll just start putting congestion zones everywhere? It's like if you're going to drive a petrol car in this city, you have to pay a charge
I
for
think that
emissions.
trend has already started. I think the problem is like almost like every month there's like new studies on like
Low
how bad
emission zones and
particulates
stuff
are.
like
Yeah,
that.
the emissions are on people's health. It's like really bad. And like even if the emissions like because obviously like technically like the electric car emissions are like at a power plant instead of like from itself. Even if it was like just as bad, I think there'd still be a push for it because like it just moves it further away from the city instead of in the city.
Right.
Um, but one thing I was going to say is like one thing that I think is really cool about batteries in general is like even if it's like obviously there's like a CO2 cost to like mine all this material and manufacture this into a battery, right? But there's already like EU and UK like legislation to say that you have to like recycle 90% of your battery. So it's like
Cool.
these materials we got for batteries basically will always well to some extent always be batteries at this point that already be like recycled into other batteries or other stuff. So it's like it's really
Mm.
cool. It's not like oil where like you mine up and then you just burn it and then it's gone.
Yeah,
I think
but
that's pretty cool.
the Cupron's a really cool car, but I think it's still at that price point where we don't.
It's way too expensive,
Yeah,
yeah.
there's not an affordable electronic car yet, which is the problem. Where you can just get like
No.
a second-hand one for what, probably like £2 or something like that.
Yeah, at the moment, electric cars are holding their value because like they're so few and far between. So you can't even get. I mean, if you're gonna buy a cheaper electric car, slightly cheaper, like go second hand because like
Yeah.
as far as I can tell from what people buying second hand electric cars, like you're not actually
Well,
losing much.
I think the thing people would be worried about from second electric cars would be battery life, but
Yeah,
I think
but that is one of the things the servicing checks is like making sure the battery life hasn't degraded too much.
yeah,
It's something like with
because
Teslas and I think the Leaf.
you already don't fully charge your car unless you're going on a
No,
long trip.
yeah, I've when I got back, I set it back to charge only up to 80%. That's what I've been keeping it at. Like for me personally, I do quite small trips for commuting, so it's not. I don't need it that much. So
But we'll say that Tony will not be buying any new Steam games or computer parts for a while now. That he's got his Cupra
yeah,
board.
at least a couple of months. I've got some stuff to pay off
Yeah.
first. Very expensive insurance as well, by the way. But yeah, very happy, very happy. That's that's what's new with me.
Well, what's new with me? So we haven't done Tangerine in a while, and
Okay.
I have a drive that is just for Tangerine recordings, and I actually had to delete some stuff off it because it was getting full. And I was like, I've been playing so many games since we last did the Tangerine, and I don't talk about them. So I was like, I'm just going to start listing off games I've been playing on the podcast just to say, hey, I've been playing this,
Yeah.
and maybe give like a one sentence description of it in case I don't talk about it anytime soon. Um, so I've been playing Half-Life 2 VR mod. I said I was going to get back into VR. Half-Life 2 VR mod's really cool. My issue with it is that I have Vive ones and I really want new VR headsets to come out. I am looking for the Quest 3 and I am looking for the deck card, whatever the fuck Valve's doing, because
Yeah.
I can't stand Vive. Like I'll go. I would go. I need to go more in depth into this in like a full VR video because I've been playing much VR games recently. But smooth locomotion on the fucking Vive One trackpads is so much awful.
I say,
So much
wait,
more
haptic
awful.
button strike again?
Yeah, and I mean they just bug out sometimes. So I'll literally be
Yeah.
like not touching the button and I'll be walking, and it's like one of the most jarring things in the world. Um, like the Half-Life 2 VR mods is pretty good, but I think it's just I need a new VR head. I'm still using the original Vive from 2016. I just want new VR headsets to come out, and I can't buy a PSVR 2. So,
Yeah, sucks.
I've played a Medieval. It is a New Blood retro boomer shooter based on the Hexen and Heretic. It is a wizard boomer shooter. It's really good. Reminds me a lot of Quake. In a lot of ways, you have like the gate level difficulty selection. It's a 3D boom shooter. It's really good. It's my first New Blood game that I've played fully. Because I've only ever played the demos for stuff like Ultra
Okay.
Kill, Gloomwood, Faith. But yeah, I chose a Medieval because it's finished. Like the actual campaign of the game is finished, whereas Ultra
Right.
Kill's coming out in parts, and Dusk I think is getting a HD update soon. So I was going to wait for that to just see what that's like.
Mm.
Um, I played through the. I don't know if you know this exists because I didn't know it existed until a friend sent me a link to it. There's a Psychonauts VR game called Psychonauts in the Rhombus of Ruin,
Okay.
and that is essentially. I think it links the story of the first game to the second game, but it came out
Oh.
it came out like 2017, so it's not like a new thing. Um,
Oh wait. Okay. Right. Okay.
so I've played Psychonauts. I don't think I've talked about it yet because this is the thing. I've played a bunch of games,
Yeah.
and I'm like, oh yeah, I played that ages ago, but I've never talked about this.
It's been a couple of
It
months and
follows on
days.
from the end of Psychonauts 1 story,
Right.
and it is essentially it's all right. It's essentially like a point and click game in VR. There's no hand tracking, and you sort of like
What?
choose things by like moving your head and then like clicking
Okay.
on things with a controller.
Did you not move them? Did you just like move it for you?
You essentially sort of look at a different point and then you press like an ability and then you astral project to that point. So you sort of just teleport around to set points.
Okay, interesting.
It's pretty good for what it is. I mean, I think it was a VR. I mean, it came out in 2017, so it's a game of its time. I wish there was hand tracking because I think it would have been really fun to play. But yeah, it was
Yeah,
pretty good.
what?
It's quite short. Um, I finished Super Mario Galaxy emulated on the. I played the entire game emulated on the Steam Deck.
You didn't
Um,
play it as Luigi though.
I unlocked Luigi. I have played as Luigi briefly.
Okay.
So if you don't know, um, the game requires 60 stars to complete the game and fight Bowser and beat the game. You can then get 120 stars, which lets you 100% the game. If you then go and fight Bowser again, which I did, with the 120 stars unlocked, um, you then unlock the ability to play as Luigi, who has slightly different physics to Mario. So he like jumps higher, but he's like a lot more slidey than Mario. Is something I realized. Um,
Okay.
but yeah, I think you technically can play the entire game again, collect all the stars of Luigi, and there's 121 star, but I was not willing to do that.
For the one
Um,
extra star. It better be like a giant star,
oh,
just
I
like
forgot
you
to.
did one
I
more.
played a medieval VR, and I think I could play for like an hour before I wanted to be sick, so that was pretty good.
Oh,
Um,
okay.
but I think I actually didn't find it as motion sickness inducing as I think I've seen a lot of people say that they found it. So that's good. I think
What makes it so like
it's
compared
the
to other
full
games?
game in VR.
Oh, okay.
It's not like they've taken the game and chopped it up and been like, right, let's slow it down. Like you can rocket jump across the map and
Ah,
then blow people up in midair and do flips, and it's like Boneworks, right, where they just like go crazy. Um,
right. Okay.
Whereas like a lot of VR games for the VR version, they'll like, right, we never want to move the player unless he moves himself and he moves himself slowly in this direction. We don't want people to, have to do this or that. And I think that's good to chop up games sometimes and do that. But there are people with VR legs who've been playing VR for many years and they can handle this sort of thing.
I mean, some people with like VR heads where they can go to sleep and just live in VR. That's still
Yeah,
mad to
those
me.
are the people who play VR chat.
Yeah, insane.
Some strange individuals, cat
Yeah,
girls and mutes and stuff like that.
yeah. Each their own.
But yeah, again, I'm being annoyed by it's smooth locomotion only, and vibe smooth locomotion vibe ones are a pain in the fucking ass. So I
Oh,
stopped
that's
playing
getting the
it.
way again, is it?
Yeah.
Okay.
The Legend of
So any smooth locomotion would be a problem with Vive ones then?
Yeah, I mean, I was reading the Half-Life 2 VR mod Steam forum to see if anyone else played in the Vive, and the devs were like, the Vive ones are the worst way to play the Half-Life 2 VR mod, and I was like, yeah, that's fair. It is fucking awful.
Okay.
I've never played a Zelda game until I played The Legend of Zelda: Link's Awakening, and it's fucking phenomenal. It is beyond amazing. It's the Switch remake of the 2D Zelda game. I think it was for like the Game Boy or something.
Okay.
It's really fucking good. It's a gorgeous game, really, really cool. Bulletstorm. Uh, if I was going to try and sum up Bulletstorm, it was an interesting game for the time it came out, but now going back and playing it, I think it's a bit overrated.
Yeah.
It is
I
definitely
think it was.
clunky, and it's not that interesting to me.
Yeah. What? Quickly,
I'm not.
why
I'm
are you
not.
playing
No,
Bulletstorm in current year?
because I never played it, and I wanted to try it.
Okay. So it wasn't like a wheel thing. It was just that you just
No,
saw it. I'll play it then.
I've finished the whip. I'm just every game I'm talking about now is a game I sat down and I said I want to play that, and I played it.
Right. Okay.
And currently I'm playing Metroid Dread, which
Oh, okay.
I'm a big fan of Metroidvania games, and I've never played a Metroid game.
Yeah.
So I thought I would try.
You played a Castlevania game?
Me and you have both played that weird Patrick Stewart Castlevania game.
That's not. Yeah, that doesn't
Castlevania
count
Lord
though.
of Shadows. The like
I like how
the
we both
3D
call it the
hack and
Patrick.
slash
I
one.
like how we call it the Patrick Stewart one.
Yeah, I haven't played an original Castlevania game, no, but I
Yeah.
will one day probably.
Oh, it's an interesting game, but it's not.
But
Yeah, I don't know how that was.
sometimes I say to my friends, "Oh no, I've never played this game, but I will from some point," and they're like, "Oh, people always say that, but I don't." But I play games from like the 1990s or
Yeah.
stuff like that. I will go back and if somebody tries to say to me like, "Oh, I've been playing this game recently. This happens in the story," I'll immediately stop them and go, "I don't want to know. I'll play
Yeah.
the game because I will at
Yeah.
some point."
But
I like
that's the
playing
great thing
games.
that's the great thing with PC gaming and the Steam library is that you can always go back. Like there's no like console generation limitations and like barriers.
But I have so much more to say about those, but I've cut myself off so it doesn't consume the podcast. Just to let people know what
I
we've been
think
up
you've done
to.
quite well. It's only 28 minutes then.
What do you mean? This I think it was 16 minutes of you talking about
Yeah, no, it was 18.
Okay. Alright, let's move on. Where's this down? First up we have trailers, and this one's kind of a weird one. So Iron Lung was a game that came out last year, at the start of this year. It's made by David Szymanski, the creator of Dusk. He's like a indie developer who makes lots of interesting games. It was like a weird horror game about being inside a submarine. And on April 1st, he announced that Markiplier was going to star in and direct a feature-length film version of the
What?
game from his own script, self-financed. He
Okay.
was going to adapt the game into a film, like a full feature-length film. And he announced on April 1st, and everyone was like, this is a joke. No, turns out it's real. So, Markiplier is actually directing a film based on the Iron Lung game, which I'm like, that's fucking nuts, dude. That just seems crazy. Like, good luck to Markiplier on his directorial
Yeah.
debut, and good luck
I'm
to...
curious to see what the outcome of this is.
Yeah. I haven't played Iron Lung, but it looks really interesting. I love, like, these retro horror games, so it looks really, really
And
cool.
the atmosphere seems on point.
Next up we have Town of Salem 2 announcement trailer. It's early access May 26th. I don't know if you ever heard of Town of Salem, but it was essentially. Have you ever heard of the game Mafia? Not the 3D one. The
No,
like board game sort of thing, Mafia.
no, I've not heard of. I've heard. I swear, I recognize Town of Salem.
The
Salem,
Town
sorry.
of Salem is basically taking the idea. It's like Mafia is like a classic, like board game sort of thing, where it's like a social deduction game, right? Where you have to sit down
Right.
and you're trying to find out who's murdering people, I believe. And then
So
you
there's like
basically,
roles and
and then at the end of the day, you have to vote somebody who you're going to murder, sort of thing. So it's sort of like Amogus or Werewolves or whatever, sort of similar to
yeah.
that vein. It was quite popular to stream like Town of Salem 1 on Twitch. I've never played it personally, but it's interesting to see that they're going for more of a 3D aesthetic for the second game. Maybe I can check out this game at some point and try and learn how to play it, because it is one of those like party games that could be pretty fun.
Yeah, this is really cool as a party game. I like the roles. I guess seem really interesting.
Yeah, I think these roles are like brand new because I didn't think it
And it
was
looks
this
like only one
complicated.
person can win.
Yeah, I don't exactly know how like. I don't even know how you win at this game, so that's interesting to me.
Is that last man standing or something? Because by the end of the
Oh, we need to do a board game review, Tony, because I just realized we played a new board
oh
game on the
yeah.
weekend. What was the name of the game we played?
We'll have to do it another time.
It was
But
like a forest game.
oh, Root.
It was called Root. Okay. My opinion of Root is that you need someone playing it who knows the game very well and can basically
Yeah.
micromanage people. Because
You
essentially, there's four different characters in the game you can play as, and they all basically have their own way to win.
yeah.
And
So
essentially, what you're doing is when you play a 4-player game of Root, you are essentially learning 4 different games at once.
but by yourself, like you have to like because like the person playing, I felt like I was just like kind of spectating. It looked like
Yeah.
people playing their own, I guess, game had to learn how to do it themselves, then explain to other people what they were doing and how they were meant to win.
So I was the cats, so I started with an advantage where I was like in the forest, and my plan was to get
You
victory
build
points. I had to keep building things, so I had to take over
yeah, lots
territories
of
and build
camps
them.
and
And then there's
yeah.
the birds who are your natural enemies, and they have a government,
Well,
and they
they're a
have to
fascist
build.
but government
They have to
system.
build a roost, and you need to keep putting cards down to get more birds. But if you have too many demands that you can't fulfill for
Yeah,
your bird government, your government collapses.
it's
Then,
gonna be really cool.
there's the toasts, who I have
The
no idea what
toys.
they do. The green mice, which
Yeah.
they like put sympathy down in your towns, and basically they're like fighting
They're
guerrilla warfare, and they start uprisings.
in the
And
rock paper scissors. I think they're the mushroom. I think.
then there was the Wanderer. He just goes around
Yeah.
trading with people, and he's trying to win by getting items.
He's like
Like,
a single. Everyone else like has like lots of tokens, whereas like this was like you are one person moving around.
what is the? I'm honestly interested in what the complexity rating of this game is, because I was so fucking confused.
I was really confused, but I was actually enjoying the mechanics.
It's 3.76 out of 5 on board game. I
I
don't
would put it
know.
higher than that personally, but maybe you have to like, play more than one game to really understand. I mean,
Yeah.
I feel like strategies and like people like I don't know. I mean, you actually played it, but like everyone else to me seemed like they were like, oh, they wanted to do stuff differently, and they kind of wanted to like do it again. Well,
But there's
they
also
didn't want to do it again, but
there's
they wanted
also
to do
oh,
stuff
you have to
differently
draw
again.
cards from a deck, and you get to play them, and you have different conditions for playing them, and you want bird cards because bird cards are neutrals, but you can also draw a new win condition where instead of winning by victory points, you can now play domination victory, and it's just like, what is happening?
Yeah, maybe they should remove the different win conditions when like they okay. In my opinion, there should have been like a really small, maybe not small, but maybe there should be like a starter board with like starter rules just to make it easier. Like kind of gets rid of half the rules or something, just to get used to it. That's my recommendation there. Although I find it interesting that like everyone used the cards slightly differently. There's like the bird people didn't give a shit about like the cost of the cards because they just wanted it for the government.
Yeah. To be honest with you, I was playing as the cats. I wish I was just the guy going around trying to trade with people. That would have been the easy thing to do.
Yeah, I think you should have been that guy as well.
Because for me, I was playing like an RTS. I was like,
yeah.
So I think the reason I didn't like the game that much is because the role I had was I was going around. I was playing like Risk. So
Yeah, you're going bases.
I don't like Risk at all. So if you don't know,
right.
I don't like RTSs because I hate micromanaging units. And when you play as the cats in that game, your job is to go around, build bases, and basically try to amass as big an army as possible while moving them around strategically, like micromanaging units.
Yeah.
And I was like, I don't like this at all. I hate this.
I mean, that looks amazing. I think I wanted to be cats or birds.
Yeah, I would like to be the raccoon or the toast. That would be great.
I don't understand the toast. Maybe
they're meant to be mice, but we thought the little
tokens
the wooden tokens look like toast.
Yeah.
Anyway, let's move back on to trailers. Cal the Kangaroo is getting a DLC called Ben the Rulies. I thought we'd talk about Cal the Kangaroo because we're going to be talking about it a little bit more in releases. They're like re-releasing a bunch of the old games. So they did this remaster. I think it came out end of last year, maybe start of this year, sometime around there. I mean, time is a relative thing. It looked like a pretty good 3D platformer from what I saw. I think the main complaints were there was some game-breaking bugs, some people said. And then there was also a complaint that the voice acting was cringe. People didn't like it. But other than that, it was like a pretty fun 3D platformer. But if you're interested in playing Cal the Kangaroo, it's actually this week's Epic free game. So I might just play it on Epic and test it out there. That was cool to see. Let's move on to releases. This is one I want to ask you about because I don't know if you've seen anything about this. You probably haven't been playing it. Minecraft Legends, 18th of April. Have you seen anything about this?
No, I did see that it launched in the launcher. It was like very animated and saying, "Look, we're here." Which I think, and you know what? I thought I was going to be annoyed by that, but it's like, that's kind of a cool. Like if you got a launch with very few games on, that's kind of a cool way to promote a new game.
I also saw that yesterday because I was downloading the Minecraft launcher from the Microsoft Store because I was trying to figure out how to play Minecraft RTX, and then there was two launchers on the Microsoft Store. There's one that's the Minecraft launcher, but then there's also one called Minecraft Java and Bedrock Edition. I was like, aren't these two the same thing?
I don't know why one of them's called Java and Bedrock. One of them, wait, I don't know. The crazy thing is that I launched mine not through a Microsoft Store because I have a local account. I don't have a Microsoft account.
Well, I have a Microsoft account because I wanted to try out ray tracing on my new graphics card. I was like, the Minecraft RTX mode. That came out in 2019. They must have updated this like loads by now. It seems like they released it in like 2019 and then they just haven't touched it since then.
Not at all.
No, because I saw a video and it was like saying it came out a couple months ago and they're basically saying they cancelled the super duper graphics pack. And then they cancelled that ages ago, right? Because I
never pay attention to it after the initial launch.
So the idea was that they were making the super duper graphics pack for the Xbox version of Minecraft. Okay. Then they cancelled it, and then literally a week later they announced Minecraft RTX, and they did like a bunch of like beta maps. But in order to get it to work with like your single player survival game, you have to download like a third party file from a different website.
Yeah, it's basically a separate data pack, as if the normal the.
And if you want it to, if you want it to work on your texture packs, you have to make your own models because you have to do like roughness and all the different sides and stuff
You
like
you
that, how
need
they reflected
every
light.
texture needs just like extra maps basically.
Tony, you've been making a Minecraft texture pack. Would you be interested in making a ray traced texture pack?
I'll give it a go, but there's a lot of fucking textures in Minecraft. It'll take a while. I think that's the biggest bound.
So
Like,
I
if
went
there's like
down.
default stuff you could add,
So
sure.
I couldn't figure out like because I was watching someone play Minecraft and they were playing with shaders. I think it
Yeah,
was how was it
it's
called?
there's Seuss
No,
shaders and those.
no, no, no. It wasn't Seuss because I know Seuss is apparently the most intensive one. Because I started watching YouTube videos
Yes.
about someone who had a 4090 and they were basically trying to run the most intensive texture pack, which was Patrick's texture pack at the highest resolution.
Oh,
And then they were also running the ray traced shader pack,
yeah.
and they were just trying to like.
Because Sue's been working on the RTX shader pack for a while. Because I think since like they were, oh, we've got RTX in Minecraft. It's like, oh, I'm gonna do my own, but like agnostic to GPU. But obviously it means it's then very CPU and GPU intensive.
But so I was like, okay, fuck it. I'll download Bedrock edition of Minecraft and I'll try and
Yeah.
this RTX Minecraft thing because I've never tried it. I mean, I've had an RTX card for God, like 3 years at this point.
Yeah, it'd be nice to see.
And I go to download it. It's like you can download this to your C drive or your D drive, and I was like, why can't I download this to my G drive where I keep all my games? And I have no idea why. It just wouldn't let me install it. That directory didn't come up. It was only letting me install it in 2 places, and the 2 places I didn't want to install it, and I said, fuck this, I closed it, and I went to bed.
I mean, that's probably the correct move, yeah.
So I was going
That's
off on a
annoying.
fucking side quest trying to install Minecraft, because I was super confused even which launcher to download from the store.
Yeah, I don't.
Then I
That
have to
seems weird.
download, I have to download the Bedrock edition, right? And then
My understanding is...
and then I have to download an NVIDIA beta pack which are maps specifically designed for the RTX. Then I have to turn it on in the options. And just like it's been like almost like 4 years since they've released this thing. Is there not going to be an update to this to make it more smooth or like an easier experience? It's still in beta for like 3 or 4 years. I'm going off on a tangent because I also was on the Minecraft launcher and I saw that Minecraft Legends was on there and I know nothing about it. Is it like Clash of Clans?
I have no idea. I've not looked into it.
I watched Forsen play it for like
no
10
idea.
minutes and he was just getting stream sniped by like a bunch of random people.
I guess it must be them. I don't know.
I think the idea is you build a structure and then people come and attack it, or you attack other people's structures and stuff like that. I just saw the trailer for it, and I was like, because didn't they do a bait and switch with the trailer where they showed different graphics and then it went to cell shaded, or it was cell shaded? What was the bait and switch on the original trailer?
The original trailer had very shiny effects, I thought. From what I remember, it was
yes,
very pixel arty.
The cinematic one looks like it looks like it looks really good, and then it goes to the gameplay, and it's like it's all cell shaded.
What's silly though is like
different.
Yeah, because normally you can tell if it's like a cinematic trailer or not, but because you look at the cinematic trailer and go, oh, a game engine could easily run like this sort of graphics. Like you could foresee a game that looked like this without it being a cinematic mode. And it's like, oh, and it looks different. That Mojang are kind of bad for that. I don't know if you pay attention to the concept art they have for the new Minecraft updates. It's like they go for this really, in my opinion, quite nice pixel art concepts.
Somebody in reviews is saying mouse acceleration on by default and no option to turn it off. We've got an Atomic Heart situation on our hands.
Can't you force it in the Windows options, application options?
There should never be a game option where you go, you can go into the options of your computer to force us to be able to turn this stuff off.
No, I agree, but there are ways to do
it. It's got mixed reviews on Steam. One of the recent reviews said, imagine Clash of Clans fighting systems and a Minecraft merged into one, which means not very good.
Okay.
Yeah, I don't know. I saw the trailer, I said, that doesn't look like anything I would play, and then it came out, and I looked at it again, and I was like, it's from Mojang, but it still doesn't look like anything I would play.
Yeah.
So I thought maybe you would know a bit more because you're into Minecraft,
No,
but I guess
none of the people that I watch from Minecraft, and I still deal with people from Minecraft that have looked into it or anything. But
right.
that's kind of a massive issue with the Minecraft name, as far as I can tell.
So it's
It's
got
like
mixed reviews. Might be like a Clash of Clan things. It's got a big question
yeah,
mark from us. We don't know.
no idea.
Next up we have Disney Speedstorm came out. Do you remember Disney Speedstorm? I played the beta back ages ago, and I was like, it's massively pay to win. It's like a really it's a pretty decent mascot kart racing game from Disney. Like
For the yeah,
the racing's good, the music's good, the art's pretty good.
yeah,
But it's completely pay to win, and it seems it's come
yeah.
out. It's released now, and it seems like it is pay to win. So I know that they got a lot of like good kudos when they did Dreamlight Valley, which was the Animal Crossing Disney game that people seem to really really like.
Right.
But yeah, it seems like when I played the beta, it was really pay to win. You could essentially just buy better races, and you had like a billion different currencies that you would get, and it was super confusing. And I thought, well, if they remove the pay to win aspect before launch, there's a pretty decent kart racing game in there, but it's a fully priced, well, £25 game with full of microtransactions that's completely pay to win. So I would avoid this one personally.
Yeah, really unfortunate.
A Medieval VR came out, and I've actually been playing this, and it's pretty good. I talked about it briefly already. It's essentially just the full game, but in VR. One thing I should mention. You can with the weapons you can throw them all, which I was like, that's such a good detail.
Well, as an attack.
Yeah, like when you have the axe, you can just throw it. When you have
Okay.
like the mace, you can just throw it out of your hands as like a melee
That's cool.
attack. Yeah, that's another thing with like there's a staff that shoots planets, and you can it shoots planets. Like you can shoot the
What?
Earth, and the game will say, "Oh no, you blew up the Earth."
Okay.
Usually you just pull the trigger and it fires it like a rocket. It's essentially the rocket launcher of the game. It's the wizard
Right.
version of the rocket launcher.
Okay.
But in the VR version, you can pick up the planet with the other hand and just lob it at people, which I thought was hilarious.
That's cool.
Yeah. But it's pretty cool. Next up we have, and it seems people are very positive about it. Again, most people were saying like, kind of disappointed. Some of this stuff is really tough to do in VR. The swim mechanic is the Half-Life mod. Yes! This person also played the Half-Life 2 VR mod and noticed that there's a reason there's not a single piece of water in Half-Life Alyx. Turns out swimming in VR is like a really tough thing.
Yeah.
And when you take a game like Half-Life 2, and you just go, let's throw VR onto it, turns out all the platforming, physics, and water sections are really tough to do in VR.
Yeah, it's like it jumped. I guess is swimming worse than like jumping and.
Yeah, swimming sucks. And also, that's something I want to say about Medieval. Water sucks in this game. Like, getting out of water is... in normal or the VR version, getting out of water is like a really... It's surprisingly annoying thing. You don't just like hop out the water, there's no ledge grabbing. It's like, it's really annoying to get out of water in this game.
You know
which
what
is one of my biggest gripes.
They should turn all the water into ice. I think that'd be even more annoying in VR.
Cal the Kangaroo, Mystery of the Volcano came out 27th of April. This game originally came out in 2005, but they're basically re-releasing a bunch of the Cal the Kangaroo games, which are like classic 3D platformers. They're also doing Cal the Kangaroo, the 2000. It's a re-release of the original Cal the Kangaroo game. So I think you can get most of the Cal the Kangaroo games on Steam now. Because I think you got Cal the Kangaroo Round 2, and Cal the Kangaroo Mystery of the Volcano. So that's cool to see that they're adding more classic Retro Games. And again, if you want to play the new Cow the Kangaroo game, it is this week's free Epic game. Okay, we got a big one. Star Wars Jedi Survivor. Holy moly with this one. Okay.
Yeah, this one sucks me because
I was talking to
like
Tony before the podcast, and I was saying like 2023 feels like the year of who can make the worst PC port. We've had such awful releases this year, but Star Wars Jedi Survivor is currently the front runner for the worst PC port of the year, and that's saying something. We've had such a stacked year. Like last year, we had like Elden Ring came out, and everyone was like, "Oh, well, I know my game of the year." We have Star Wars Jedi Survivor come out, and I go, "Well, I know my worst PC port of the year already." You know, holy man! Because I think the front runners are Jedi Survivor and Tlu right now. Because Tlu is unplayable for a lot of people. I've got a friend who's constantly crashing before the shader compilation can even finish. Tlu Part 1 PC port. So this game, they've done a couple of patches recently, but on launch was utilizing like none of the CPU at all. Basically, could not run at a stable 60 FPS on any system. Basically, people were struggling to get like a stable 30 FPS. It was just all over the fucking place. Massive stuttering issues. I've watched the Digital Foundry video, and Alex was like, I've got like a 4090 system, and the game has a step at the start of the game where it says compiling shaders, right? And literally in the intro animation, there's a ship that goes past and immediately stutters. And every time he would delete the shader cache or update the driver, it would stutter again. So this shader compilation step that they have at the start of the game is doing absolutely nothing. But yeah, this. And then some people were like, "Yeah, but I played it on the PS5 and it had no issues." It seems like some people are just having like complete no issues with the game, and then for most people it's like a crazy buggy mess. But it's just like you're rolling the dice at this point when it comes to, because even the console versions have had problems as well. So it's not just like, oh, it's got shared comp issues on PC, which is the norm. Where it's like, because people are even saying this year, like, the shader comp issues, it's like, why would you not just get the PS5 version? Because then you can just get like a lock 60 version most of the time for most of these games that are coming out, and be like, and then I can just play it without shader comp. But even the like PS5 and the Xbox version are getting shader comp issues. Bloomberg put out an article recently saying that this Electronic Arts new Star Wars sequel was made in record time, like it was an achievement. And I was like, yeah, you could tell they fucking rushed this. Like, this is absolutely abhorrent state this has come out in. Like, with the current performance of this game, this is nothing to be proud of with how quickly they got this game out of the door. This is something Alex Battaglia from Digital Foundry posted on Twitter. He calls it Fisher-Price DRM. If you play this game on too many computers, in quotation marks, it stops.
Oh, that's so dumb.
This account has accessed too many versions, so playing this on more than one system immediately locks you out because it goes, you've played this on too many systems. I know, like, Hardware and Box was saying he basically had to buy a bunch of trials for EA play up to a certain point in the game, just so he could benchmark the game on other systems on every single account, because if you try and play it on more than one PC, or you change the hardware, it immediately locks you out from playing it, which is like EA's archaic DRM system they have.
Yeah, they have their own app. Like, just go, oh, you've logged into this computer, log other instances of this login.
The game launched, I think it's AMD sponsored, because it only launched with FSR 2, and even then the FSR 2 in this game is not very good. It doesn't seem to fix a lot of the issues the game is having. Apparently, modders have already modded in DLSS, and it's getting noticeable good performance gains with DLSS. So that is good to see, because I believe that recently Resident Evil 4 had DLSS modded into it, and Alex Battaglia talks about this in his Resident Evil 4 performance video and said it was very good, especially compared to the TAA implementation. that comes with the game. Yeah, Jedi Survivor. Okay, I want to talk about. I don't think. Do I have this on here? Basically, EA put out a statement. I don't know if you saw this because this was like the most whack shit I've seen from EA. Okay, that's not true. This is
some of them.
This is like whack shit I've seen from EA. But it came out and they basically said like, oh yeah, it's an issue if you're playing this on Windows 10. It's supposed to be played on Windows 11.
Oh,
and they said a small select amount of users are getting issues with this game because they don't have the right drivers on Windows 11.
Then someone test the claim as well. Windows 10 was better.
They test from the benchmarking. Windows 10 ran slightly better, if not the same. And also, people are having issues on. Lots of people are having issues on multiple hardware configurations, on multiple OSs. This is just
and console.
It was like one of the most tone deaf statements I've seen in a while. It's just like some select people are having issues because they're in the wrong version of Windows when the game is completely broken on every system. Like insanity.
Yeah.
Right. Let's talk about more broken PC ports. Redfall came out. It's fucking broken. People hate it. It's not as broken as Star Wars Jedi Survivor, but it definitely has some issues, and from what I've heard, it's just not a very fun game to play.
Yeah. So I guess it's less bad technically, but then less.
I mean, Unreal
interesting gameplay-wise.
Shader compilation issues. Name that engine.
Yeah. Oh my god!
I don't know. So I am a huge fan of Arcane. I am a big fan of Dishonored. I think
they've made some absolute
I'm a big fan of Prey. I think they make some of the best immersive sims in like the recent years. Absolutely fantastic studio. They make really, really cool games. And then they were like, let's make an online-only co-op Left 4 Dead-y vampire game that you can't share progress with. By the way, our game director was asked if we need more time to delay it, and he said, yeah, just give us 6 weeks and it'll be finished, and this is the state they released it in.
Okay, this is a bit of a tangent and not really relevant at all, but like, even I was like I'm a vampire lover, and I looked at this and went, I'm not really sure what the appeal is here.
Yeah.
And it sucks that it's come out in such a state as well on top of that, so...
but people were saying, like, Prey from... So Arcane's engine is usually the Void engine, which they use for stuff like Dishonored. Then for Prey, which is like a fine engine, it has limitations, like, I think FPS is tied to, like, the gameplay clock or whatever. It has, like, weird limitations like that. But, it's fine for what they were using it for. Then they released Prey 2017, and they were like, let's use CryEngine. And the game runs amazing and looks phenomenal. And people are saying,
it's a good engine.
Prey from 2017 looks better than Redfall does in current year. It's just like insane, like the difference.
I mean, admittedly, there's like a slightly different scope, but still, it considering what you expect from like tech and engine performance, it's not what you expect.
Yeah. Look, gameplay boring, graphics ugly, story a joke, price bugs.
From what I saw, people were saying it's like open world with like lots of dead spaces in it, and not the good dead space.
There it is. I think it's sort of it's mostly negative. I've seen a couple of people say the game's okay, but the general consensus is, at its best, it's a boring co-op game that's got an open world that you don't really want to explore. Which is a shame to me.
The best things are the cool, weird vampire abilities, and even then, it's that.
I've seen gameplay from watching a Twitch stream, and it did not look impressive at all.
No.
I was very underwhelmed by Redfall from the gameplay I saw. It just looked kind of boring.
Also, like, I saw one thing. It was like, like we saw like the cinematic trailers of it, like it had like the personality of like almost like rendered cutscenes. They kind of look like, and, like someone was saying, it's like that's not even in the game. Like, all the stuff in the game is like I think from only like perspective only. So it's like they didn't even add the stuff that was like looked interesting from the trailers as like cinematics or something.
I don't know. I'm just very disappointed because I'm a big fan of Arcane and I absolutely adore most of their games. I mean, um, Dishonored 1 and 2. I mean, the Clockwork Mansion in Dishonored 2 is probably one of the best designed immersive sim levels I've ever played.
Yeah.
Prey 2017 is probably the best immersive sim game of all time, like, potentially. It's fucking phenomenal. And
Like 5 years later.
I thought Deathloop was okay, but ultimately it wasn't up to the par of stuff like Dishonored and Prey.
Yeah.
But it just Redfall just does not look good at all.
It was to clarify, so Redfall's made by a slightly different Arcane studio than what's the other one?
So the way Arcane works, they have two studios: Arcane Austin and
Okay.
Arcane Lyon in France,
Right.
and they
Okay.
both pretty much both work on them. I don't think there is like a major
There's not as
separation.
okay. Okay. Like one might be a lead, but they both work on it. Okay.
Yeah. But I don't know if you remember, like, Arcane was going to make a Half-Life 2 expansion game, and they basically got cancelled because their main studio was in Lyon, France, and they didn't want to use the European studio when the stability of the currency there was going up and down, so they just decided to cancel it
Right.
and go
Right.
with the American company at the time, which was going to make a different zombie game called Left 4 Dead, and that was ultimately how Turtle Rock got started.
Yeah.
Um, could have lived in a very different world where we had no Left 4 Dead, but we had an Arcane
Yeah.
Studios Half-Life 2 expansion. Anyway, I really hope they can. At this point, what can you do to the game? You can fix the bugs, yeah, but how do you make it more interesting? Like, maybe there's just not coming back from this game because people.
I
I
think
don't
you
know.
could
Have
fix
you
it, but
seen
it'd
that?
take too
There's
much
there's
time.
been some discourse recently where people are saying when you review a game, you need to talk about the technical issues, especially if it's a
Yeah.
PC review of a game.
Yeah.
And some people have kicked back at this. Um, I'm not sure which side I lay on because people were saying, like, at the time, like, Fallout New Vegas got absolutely slammed for its
Mm-hmm.
technical issues, but is now considered to be an absolute masterpiece classic.
I would say though, I think that you shouldn't.
And
Okay, either way, whatever
the
the
base game of Fallout New Vegas is still a buggy, broken mess in a lot of
yeah,
respects.
I would say okay. It goes my point though. Either way, whatever side you choose, I think you have to report everything. Like you might not want to put an opinion out on like one of them, but you have to still give an honest state of how it plays. And I would argue that New Vegas is still a buggy mess, but it has a fantastic story and game
Mm-hmm.
under it or on top of it, however you want to look at it. And it's like those criticisms are still valid. It's just like they might, depending on how you feel about the game, might be overridden. Like it might be greater than the bugs that it came from. So
Yeah,
I think
because
you have to
the
talk about
discourse
both.
recently has been people have been saying basically Star Wars Jedi Survivor is a really, really good game. Like, from what I've heard, Star Wars Jedi
Or like the
Survivor,
actual gameplay
the
without the
gameplay of the game
technical.
is really fun.
Yeah.
It's a really good looking game, and it's really, really fun.
Mm-hmm.
But
If you
it's
can't play
one
it,
of the worst technical games of the year
yeah,
in
you
terms
have
of
to
being
do
able to
both.
run
I
it.
don't think it's neither or. I don't think it's like are you left or right in this like debate. It's like you have to do both, and different people will have different biases, and like it's up to them to decide.
So I
I
remember
don't think
last
it's
year
neither
people
or.
were like, Elden Ring is the best game that came out that year, but it has
Very buggy.
insane like shader compilation
Yeah,
issues, lots of bugs. You know.
like it shouldn't run best on the Steam Deck as like
Yeah.
a PC edition.
Yeah. Let's move on as we are out of time. Let's move on to quick news. Oh, Young Horses, the creators of Bug Snacks and Octodad, have put up 4 smaller side projects on Steam for free. So they've got 4 games: Independent, which is a ant game, I guess. It's like an open world ant game.
Okay.
There's a couple of ant games apparently, because there's also one where you play as an ambassador to ants called Antbassador, where you play as like a finger with a hat on it, and you have to essentially try and become the human ambassador to ants.
Right.
There's another one called Snake Date, which is
Snake Date looks great.
a snake dating game where you
I
play
like
as a
Snake
snake.
Date.
And physics-based speed dating arcade action. And then they also released the original student version of Octodad that they made. So this is the
nice.
When they made Octodad as a student project, they released the original version, which might be interesting to check out. I thought we should check these out for like Spotlight or something, because I thought it'd be really cool. Similar to how I wanted to check out the Landfall just posted a bunch of their projects. I think this stuff is really cool where you take a student and go, oh, I'm working on, like, I have all these really cool ideas. They're in a playable state. Let's just drop them on Steam and see if people want to play them. Because I think that's a really cool way to do it.
I think that's great, yeah. You can like see like how how they
so hopefully we'll be doing some spotlights, because I think it would be really funny if we split it up half and half. So I played 2 of the games and you played 2 of the games. So if you played like the dating snake game,
I would love to play the dating snake.
And I wanted to play I thought the ant games looked really interesting.
Yeah,
so I want to play the ant games. We have GE Proton 8.1 has released. GE stands for Glorious Egg Roll, I believe. It's a community version.
Glorious Egg Roll.
Yeah, I think from the top of my head, I think it means Glorious Egg Roll. But one of the big things they changed was Overwatch losing focus after death seems to be fixed in this version of Proton GE, and that is a bug I was having on the Steam Deck. Where
is that the way that you couldn't have control? Is that the reason?
I had like a mouse and keyboard plugged into Overwatch when I was testing out Overwatch on it, when I didn't have my PC because I was upgrading it. And every time I would die, I would lose control of my character. I was only able to move around with the inbuilt controls on the Steam Deck, so I think this might have been related to it. When it was losing focus, I wasn't able to use the mouse and keyboard. So if that's fixed, that's really cool. That is cool to see.
Yeah.
We have Dark and Darker news. I still don't know what the fuck's going on with Dark and Darker. So, Dark and Darker developer is being sued by Nexon for copyright infringement. We have the suit in place now. Dark and Darker's lawyers have asked Valve to bring the game back to Steam in a letter blasting Nexon for anti-competitive bully tactics. And apparently, Dark and Darker has begun issuing refunds for everyone who committed to their GoFundMe campaign. Apparently, fans are declining to accept these refunds, saying, no, keep my money.
Yeah, I wouldn't accept the refund if I was like... okay, I don't know what the hell's going on, but like if you've chosen to side with them over Nexon, like I wouldn't want to accept the money. Like, no,
apparently the Dark Darker team has been issuing refunds for the recent GoFundMe campaign, and fans have applauded the decision born Iron Mace to keep the donations. The team has been refunding the donations because it was a hasty campaign that was started despite all the developers not initially agreeing to it.
Right.
The players have asked Iron Mace to keep the money, but it's being returned likely due to possible legal issues or just because of the goodwill of the team.
Yeah, they're probably contract issues as well. Like if you hastily and you're not fulfilling it. So
an early access version of the game may also release in the future, costing between $30 to $40 price tag, which could also explain donation refunds. Yeah. I still don't know. I know people have very personally invested because they really like this Dark and Darker game, but I have no idea if they did legitimately steal developers and code from Nexon. We'll have to wait and see. I'm not personally invested in it, so I'm not taking one side or the other. Let's wait and see. We've got Steam news. This is really cool. I think this is a really cool change from Steam. Steamworks update, a maximum of 2 trailers before screenshots. So, every trailer you upload onto Steam now must be put into a trailer category. So whether it is a teaser trailer, whether it is a cinematic trailer, if it is a gameplay trailer, you have to specifically say what you are showing in the trailer, which I think is really cool. Because we were saying about the Minecraft Legends, I was like, initially I thought this was what the gameplay was going to look like, but if you watch it on Steam now, it will say this is a cinematic. They will have to say it's a cinematic.
Yeah, very good. Very, or like story trailer. Is there like an option for story trailer or something? Or...
So the options are gameplay, and the description is mostly shows what it is like to play the game. Teaser, shorter, often pre-game release, doesn't show much of the game. Generic, general/cinematic, general game trailer or pre-rendered video, and interview/dev diary, non-fiction
cool.
interview or documentary video. I don't know if
I
you've
like
seen.
That's good they added that actually.
So they've also put some advice on trailer creation as well there. So a big complaint from people recently that I've seen been popping up has been that there are too many trailers and teaser trailers on a Steam store page. So you would have to like click past a bunch of trailers just to get to the screenshots, just so you can actually see what the game looks like. Because I believe like a few years ago, Steam changed how screenshots worked, and you were no longer allowed to upload concept art to Steam. It had to be in-game screenshots, because there was big issues with people not sure what the game actually looked like. So people have been just skipping past the trailers to get to the screenshots to see what it is now, and it's actually more easy than ever now because you can only have 2 trailers up, and then you can go straight to the screenshots. And because the trailers are now limited to 2, meaning they're much more likely to want to show gameplay, and also labeled so you know it is gameplay, it should make a much better experience for the customer, which you love to see.
It'd be nice if you could still have like an archive on it where you could like put multiple up, but yeah, the actual main bit doesn't need more than like 2, maybe 3 at
most. Steam desktop update. This is fucking huge. So the Steam client beta has been updated. They've completely overhauled the Steam client and the Shift Tab experience. I've been using this as I'm part of the Steam client beta group. I'm on the beta version. We saw recently, initially, they were basically saying you can no longer run it on Windows 7, 8, Mac OS.
8.1.
8.1, because they're basically using a new version of Chrome in order
security updates don't work on those versions.
As a part of this new update. So downloads are now going to be showing the progress, what game is downloading, how many downloads you're doing while you're inside the library. They've updated the UI so it is consistent across the entirety of Steam. That was like one of the big things people were saying was there's like 5 different UI styles all over Steam.
Yeah.
It seems now this is going to be more consistent with, from the settings page and stuff like that, it is consistent with the Steam Deck UI now. Which is cool to see.
Because the overlay was the last untouched UI from ages ago.
Let's pull up some of these images so I can show you my Steam, but I have to launch a game to show you the Shift tab. One thing I think is awesome, as we talked about this previously, you now have the ability to take notes on Shift tab, which is something really, really useful. And these notes save to specific games and will save between sessions. I've tested this personally, so unless they change this in a patch note, when you launch a game, it will remember all the notes you've made on the game, and you can have multiple notes and you can switch between them, which is really cool to see.
One thing I said, like I think off camera or off recording, that I said it'd be nice if you like have a tip box and notes say like for all games or something, because there might be like a generic note you want for everything, and then
but someone has been using the Decky plugin to add a notepad to the Steam Deck. This is a very welcome feature.
Yeah, I mean, I assume people at Valve were using it, so that's why they added it. So
yeah. I'm not a big fan of the new notifications things. It shows like every time you get like something in a wish list goes on sale, and every time you get like a trading card, it's all under one notification system now. Currently, there's only
no settings for it.
Currently, the settings are you can filter it by just show trading cards only, but the full options for turning specific notifications on and off is not enabled in the current beta.
Like coming soon or something?
Yeah, it's currently not available.
So hopefully it'll get fleshed out. Because you need to be able to customize notifications.
The Shift tab looks really sleek. You can also set the opacity of windows and set them to be persistent. So you can now, if you're a one-monitor psychopath, you can be playing a game and you can know like Netflix on your shift tab, and then you can set the opacity so you can be watching Netflix while you're playing your game on the same screen.
Guess using the Chrome browser in Steam.
Yeah.
Okay.
I think
if you're insane,
you would have to sign in every time because I don't think the Chrome web browser has cookies. I think you would have to sign into your Netflix account every time you launched it.
Yeah, I think it only uses session stuff to like minimize or to maximize security, I suppose.
So I think by default it launches with these little icons at the bottom, but you can change it in settings to be a full list if you'd like that, and you can turn individual ones on and off, so you don't have to have all of them on there. Like, I would turn off I like the new soundtrack player thing, but I wouldn't use it personally. I would just probably turn that off.
You don't need it from there, especially if you've got more than one monitor. I just launch it from like the Steam app.
But a lot of these things are like, this is a cool feature for people with one monitor, but I don't ultimately do this. I mean, personally, what I use the Shift tab most for is to look up guides. That is the number one. Achievements and guides is the number one thing I use Shift tab for right now.
Yeah.
Or to go
to how long I've been playing the game as well. Like, oh shit, I've been playing for that long. Or to
quickly go to the workshop or the discussions page so I can troubleshoot things. But I don't usually use the web browser. I don't use the soundtrack player. I don't use screenshots that much. I'd probably get rid of this DLC page. I
can't remember what I was playing or why, but like I did actually need to like it was like a link on from some. Oh, I know what it was. I was looking at the workshop and like and it had a link to like some other website and it's launched in like the overlay. I was like, okay, that's kind of useful.
Pretty good. All right, next up we have tech news. Direct Storage 1.2 is available. Microsoft's latest Direct Storage 1.2 works on hard drives to boost PC gaming load times. I mean, it works on anything technically. I think somebody said it technically could work on a floppy disk, but nobody has tested this. So
yeah, the overall idea of the technology is just like go from storage directly or minimal reaction to the CPU directly to GPU. So that's like it's just it now works on anything, I suppose.
It's possible to get it working on hard drive, and it does improve performance when running on hard drives. But you are going to see the biggest performance leaps by using a NVMe SSD.
Yeah. Because again, because all you're already doing is swapping out the CPU and the communication cycles. Like, but if the hard drive is still the slowest part, that's still going to feel the most slow. But I guess it's good to have like an improvement, I suppose.
Next up, we have Returnal has now got NVIDIA's DLSS 3, and DLSS 2 has been added to a couple more games. Not any I really knew about. I think the biggest one was Strangers of Paradise, the Final Fantasy Chaos game.
Oh, the Chaos got it, did it? Nice.
Yeah,
I want to play that just for the meme.
How many people? I don't know how many people are playing Monster Energy Supercross, the official video game 6, but it's got DLSS 2 now, so
never heard of it.
Next up we have AMD announced the Ryzen Z1 and Z1 Extreme chips. These are the chips that are going to be featured in the Asus ROG Ally.
Yeah.
And I believe the Iron Neo, which is featuring the 6800U, I believe the newest like AMD APU before this, has immediately gone out and said we will now be offering new versions of the Neo to have this chip in them.
Oh,
so
nice.
It seems like the Iron Neo is already jumping on this train as well, which is really cool to see.
It's cool again dedicated hardware like spun up for this sort of thing now. It's like in between. I don't know if in between. I don't know where you even put it, like in between laptop and desktop chip. I don't know where you'd even put this on the stack, but it's cool that it's there.
Yeah, I think the biggest thing for this chip is going to be one, the machines it runs in, how good their OS is, because a lot of these handheld PCs are Windows handhelds.
And I really want Valve to get on to be able to just install SteamOS on anything. They need to get on that with this, like especially with the Asus Ally coming out.
Because we're seeing like improvements. I like how they compare it to the Nintendo Switch. I think that's really funny. where they like. I think the most useful thing would be comparing it to like the Steam Deck APU or the 6800U or whatever, the previous APU they put out. That would be some interesting performance differences.
That'd be better
comparing it to the Switch is just like a free dunk at this point.
You can compare anything to the Switch and you could probably win.
The Tegra X1 chip is not a very powerful chip anymore. I mean,
it wasn't powerful when it launched, really. Well, when it launched in the Switch.
2017, it was okay. But
we're
on to bigger and better things now. But it seems like there's not too much difference between the extreme and the non-extreme, and I think the price difference isn't too much.
Okay. It's more just like a bump than a.
Yeah.
Which is fine. I'm hoping the efficiency is there. I mean,
I think
it sounds like it is.
It seems like even though they have these more efficient processors running on the Zen 4 CPU and the RDNA 3 graphics compared to the older, I think Zen 2 is what the Steam Deck's running on, and then they have the RDNA 2 graphics. It seems like they're still very wattage bound, and the number one thing for gaming handhelds is battery life. So you're probably going to be running these at lower wattages, or if you are running at these high wattages to get these much higher performances, you're going to have no battery life. So we're really just going to have to wait for the ROG Ally to come out and to see this chip in action.
This is why I want to see more chips like efficiency. I get for desktop doesn't make too much sense, but I just find it really interesting. I would be personally hyper focused on
the RDNA 2 Steam Deck chip was a proprietary chip for the Steam Deck, and it seems like they've gone all in with the RDNA 3 and Zen 4, and they're actually releasing.
And this is available for everyone.
Handheld gaming is a thing. Let's go.
It's fantastic to see.
Oh, I don't know if you've seen this. Apparently, the Ryzen 7000X 3D has been burning out in motherboards.
There's a Gamer Nexus video. There's going to be a future one where they've done a full analysis, but they have ideas of really good ideas of how it's working.
So apparently, it's a BIOS problem on the motherboard.
Especially Asus.
And the motherboards have now been updated to fix this, and every BIOS before this point has been deleted, I think. In order to stop this from happening again. But it
was like I think Guinness was looking, and it's like one day it was there, and it's like they were trying to get access to like bootlegs and stuff for testing purposes, because it was just immediately gone.
Interesting that a BIOS issue was causing this to burn out people's chips.
Well, Gamers Nexus also wanted to point out is yes, the BIOS might be technically doing this, but what's also happening here is that the physical fail-safes were crap and were not working. Like the fail-safes, physically built into both the chips and the board, but somewhat the chip as well, should have been protecting this, and it wasn't. So like both Gamers Nexus thought it was in part both AMD and the board partners they're doing something wrong and communicating incorrectly with each other. So doesn't look good. It kind of seems like AM5 was a bit rushed, especially for the X3D. So it's not great.
What wasn't AMD saying haha, our graphics cards don't set people
with the new
cables and stuff like that for video, and now they had the issue with the cards. They had an issue with their GPUs as well, right?
Yeah, their main GPUs.
And then they had an issue with the 3D cache as well. So
just don't laugh at other companies. It's not worth it.
Then we're going to VR news. The the Universal mod brings 90% of Unreal Engine games into VR. It sounds promising. Essentially, what they're doing is they're injecting this mod into any title made in Unreal Engine 4 or 5 virtually reality compatible. This means adding head tracking, motion control, and other
But the game wasn't designed for VR or changed for VR. It's just injecting it so you can play.
But I think mostly think as a baseline, it sounds promising, but I don't find the appeal of playing these games in VR while still using regular controllers, because most of these is just going to be, unless they've been specifically modded, it's just going to be no hand tracked VR. It's going to
I
be.
didn't even think about hand tracking. Yeah, okay.
You're just going to be moving your head around and then using a controller, which is.
Is
I'm not really interested in those sort of games.
Is this possibly useful for like games that have like a modding platform to begin with? So, like this is like another thing you just add on, and then someone else could add the hand tracking, and then someone else could change the game to be more VR friendly.
And because we saw this recently with Deep Rock Galactic, with Unreal Engine 4 game, they added modding support,
yes.
and then the team was basically like, you can just tick a box and we'll be able to make a VR hand track mod for this, and they did, and that is out now. The
cool.
exceptions for just adding baseline head track support whilst using a controller. This is useful for racing games and space games where you are sitting in a fixed position cockpit sort of setup anyway, and you'll be
trucking, and racing games.
You'll be, playing with a controller or a racing wheel anyway. This will be very useful for that. Yeah. Obviously, there's a lot more work to be done to implement proper VR controls. I just hope some of these games get dedicated modding communities to get something close to Half-Life 2 VR level mods, because then I think that's when you'll see the game become like a full VR mod. Like, I think the Half-Life 2 VR mod is probably like one of the best ones I've seen out of a VR mod. So, yeah, it's cool to see. Business news, Sega has confirmed they have the acquisition of Angry Birds creator Rovio. We talked about this as a rumor. This has been confirmed now. The gaming workers at Sega have just announced their union. So the Sega employees, 140 plus workers, multi-departs at Sega Irvine HQ have unionized as Allied Employees Guild, improving Sega CWA.
Yeah, I think union is always good. I know some people are anti-union. I think unions can get out of control.
Well, we're
but
saying like a
early unions always good.
Big move from tech unions recently.
Yes, yeah.
Speaking of
unions, but tech especially.
Unions, Unity's just fired 600 of their employees.
Oh god!
Closing half of their offices.
Oh no!
The CEO. I mean, you remember we talked about Unity earlier, where we were saying they were getting a lot of water for their investments, investing in weird like shit nobody wanted. The CEO, John Riccitello, says third round of layoffs in less than a year, all about setting ourselves up for higher growth.
No, you're not setting us up for higher growth. You're setting up for lower losses, but those are two completely different things.
So it's his third round of layoffs in less than a year. That's about 8% of the company's headcount and leaves it with roughly 7,000 employees.
This is the thing about growth. You need to to grow. You need to invest in, like, in terms of a business, you need to invest in people to be able to grow. Laying off is not growth. If you hire like that number of people back because like these were the wrong people, fine. But sucks for the people.
Because Unity went public, right? They were an IPO.
Yeah. And that's why like they're making investments, arguably. Because
this is why they're trying to be like, let's fire a bunch of people and invest in random shit nobody wants instead of being a decent game engine.
Yeah, but it's not growth. It's still reducing losses, which can be fine, especially like if you're struggling. But you have to then admit that you're struggling. Otherwise, it doesn't make sense. You're then going to come out and say it's because we're growing. You're not.
And then finally, businesses, we have Atari has announced acquisition of more than 100 PC and console titles from the 80s and 90s. So this comes after the news about their Night Dive acquisition. Only they have acquired the rights to Bubsy. Does this mean we're going to get a Night Dive Bubsy game? We can only hope.
If this is the timeline we're in, we might be in the base timeline.
So some of the big franchises, they got access to Bubsy, Hardball, and Demolition Racer franchises.
Wait, Demolition? What?
Yeah.
Okay.
So if they knew about this like from a while and they were like, hey, Night Dive, we're basically acquiring 100%. A bunch of old like 80s and 90s IPs. Do you want to come and work for us and we'll let you basically remaster all this stuff? That would be an attractive offer.
I have a funny feeling afraid them setting themselves up to get these IPs, but only like if they got Night Dive, because like there's no point having these IPs if they can't do anything with them. Especially if there's an expense to this.
And let's have a look. A Molydeux tweet of the week. Tip for young people making games. Give yourself a wildly different haircut each time you begin a new project. There it is.
I mean, sure. I thought it'd be like, like a legitimate advice would be like, maybe like when you go to a new project, just try something completely different in this project and see if you can like grow with that.
And we hope everyone has a lovely Coronation Chicken Day.
UK celebrating Coronation Chicken this weekend. We got an extra holiday for
We're getting a new chicken in charge. YouTube.com at Everything In Between Podcast if you want to watch the VOD. Twitch.tv/Scorn if you want to watch live. At Scorn2000 on Twitter if you want to follow me there for some reason. And shows.cast.com/Everything In Between Podcast. If you want to go in there, click on the episode, and there'll be links to the Spotify and Apple podcast versions.
And we definitely don't swear in these podcasts.
No, every time I upload a podcast to Spotify and Apple Podcasts, there's an option to say if they're swearing in. I always click no, but that's a fucking lie. So
yeah. I'll only be fucked with it eventually.
I just waiting for the day where a censor listens to it and goes, "Wait a minute, they're swearing on this thing."
We are waiting for your email in the post. I can't wait.
Send a strongly worded letter to your local audio streaming service.
Send it to us at ridgeevans@redletmedia.com.
We will see you next time. Goodbye.
Bye.